Now that Greg and I have settled into our new place and have done some work around the local cemeteries, we have been noticing pennies appearing at our apartment. First, I found about 3 in the house on the carpet, which had been vacuumed, and Greg and I both keep our change in zippered wallets or put them in our change jar, so no way we dropped them in the places we found them. The last few weeks we've found them at our main doorstep into the building, today at our apartment door on the top of the landing rail, and then another outside the main door again. We picked them up and have taken count. We left for about an hour and came back, and there was another at our door in the same place it was last time. Now I do know that there is something about pennies in the spirit world. I don't know exactly what the intention is, but I was at the Gettysburg Cemetery and many of the graves had pennies on top of the headstones. I've seen this in other places too, and I've heard other experiences with finding pennies in odd places too, and they related to a spirit having done so. Has anyone else had similar experiences? We do know we have found a few who have followed us home, and we deal with them. The first thing that hits me is that they like our visits, and this is something to get our attention to come again. I hear and feel this. Not sure I'm on track, but we seem to make them happy. Les and Greg. This is my first time posting to a paranormal forum, so apologies ahead of time in case I mucked up the protocol or posted in the wrong area. When I was 16 or 17, I woke up to a symbol written on my mirror. I'm 37 years old now, but the question of what it was or where it came from, the memory pops into my mind intermittently, from time to time. Today I thought of it for the first time in several years, and for the first time it occurred to me that I might be able to find answers in the internet that weren't available when it happened. The symbol wasn't something that the steam in the showers made visible. I woke up one morning, after thoroughly cleaning my room the day before. Both parents are ex-military. When I say thorough, I mean is completely spotless. And looked up from my pillow to see it. Strangely, my eyes went right to it. It was like my subconscious knew it was there. But consciously, I had no idea how it got there. I wasn't scared. It was at a point in my life where I had felt most secure in my own spirituality. To explain, I identify with Native American spirituality because it was the closest thing to natural to me, but I hate labels. At the time, and even now, I felt an odd familiarity with rocks, trees, and the wind. Not animals so much, but I do like birds. Rocks especially. I know this sounds freaking insane, hence why I never bothered to explain it to people. It's just how I polarized. I wasn't scared, but I wasn't sure what it was. I told my sister about it, she saw it, and I smudged it away. I assumed there would be no defining it, and I tried to rationalize it by telling myself I probably put it in my sleep. But it looked like it was drawn with clear wax or chapstick, and there wasn't any in my room. But has anyone ever seen anything like this before? Has anyone ever had similar experiences? I would love to hear them if so. I could not figure out how to upload an image, so I made it my profile image. That's the symbol, as clear as I can remember. The line was going through the top of the circle or head. I can't remember if the center line or the body continued down through the bottom triangle or stopped at the peak of the triangle or the hips, so I drew it as it seemed natural. Unlike my scribbly lines, the image had very concise and measured lines without shakiness or lack of symmetry. I really wish I had the presence of mind to take a picture, but I do have a witness, my sister. We had a rivalry thing going on, and then and that kind of now, so she'd never say it happened if it hadn't. Hey, I'm 38 years old, and when I was around 7 or 8, I experienced something I still can't explain. I looked online and can't find anything, so I was wondering if anyone here has some insight for me. Thanks. I had a childhood friend whose house was haunted. Not in a bad way. When I would spend the night, I would hear a guitar playing. In the morning, when I would wake up, I would hear dishes rattling in the kitchen as if someone was making breakfast. Then when I would go downstairs, no one would be in the kitchen. The doorbell would randomly ring and no one would be there. They had an intercom from room to room in their house, and one certain room would periodically call the room you were in. Their whole family experienced these types of things too, and others. Really wasn't scary or anything, then they just lived with it. Now to my story. My friend and I were sitting on their back steps one day. We both looked up at the wall to see what appeared to be a black and white movie. What first appeared in the movie was the house we sat in being built from a distance, with workers, ladders, etc. At this time, I looked down the hall expecting to see a video recorder or something, like in old classrooms, but nothing was there. When I looked back at the wall, the movie had changed to my friend and I in a boat waving goodbye. At this point, we were actually getting a little scared, not really common as mentioned above. We started yelling for my older brother who was babysitting us, and when came around to the point where he could see the movie, it turned off. My brother, knowing about the ghost, took us apart and had the two of us individually explain what we saw. We explained the same thing. So what was this? Some sort of portal? Any ideas? Thanks in advance. Daz Blues. This might sound like I'm being paranoid, but off and on for years I have felt a presence get close to my face when I'm in the shower. Always when my eyes are closed. Sometimes I would put water in my mouth and spit out when I close my eyes. Just strange. Anyone else ever get that feeling? I've had a similar thing to this. When I was younger, I used to look into the mirror and sometimes I would see someone else looking back. It was a bit strange when I was a child, but I got used to it, and now when it happens, I guess it's just my spirit guide trying to make contact with me. Perhaps it's the same for you. Either that or we're going bonkers. When I was renting in Paris, near the Bastille in Gare de Lyons, one night I looked at the open French windows and saw a fellow peep in. He was like what I've seen in drawings of fairies and leprechauns. He had on a green suit of clothing and had a quick way of looking around, sort of bird-like. He's leaning in the windows, looking around, and then he vanished. I didn't hear or smell anything, nor was anything moved. It only happened once. I do dream of some places I've lived, but never that apartment, and the dreams are usually dally-like with distortion of the room and furniture. I don't know what he'd be doing in Paris. I'm part Irish, as are most Americans, but I didn't get the impression that he was looking for me in particular. He just looked curious. So I literally just joined, and I don't know if I'm doing this right, but I'm a bit rattled. I'm 12, almost 13 years old, and I'm sick, so I'm home from school. I was walking up the stairs and I heard my late father's voice yell, "Boo," in my left ear. If he was a ghost or a spirit or something else paranormal, that most definitely would be what he would yell to scare the heck out of you, and then he'd laugh as you freaked out. I wasn't thinking of him or anything of what kind as I walked, so I don't know if that rules out my brain playing tricks on me. My cat, I've heard animals can sense and even see the paranormal, has been all over the place today as well, and he's usually quite mellow. I've always been a believer because, quite frankly, there had been no solid scientific evidence, at least in my mind, to prove against it. A human is energy, and energy doesn't fade, therefore it has to go somewhere. I've always gotten little feelings and instinctive urges, and my friends joke about how I'm psychic, and I'm not sure that I am. This would be my first encounter with a ghost, and I'm a little scared. I suppose because society and my human survival instincts have taught me to be afraid of what cannot be explained. And so, I'm frightened. Please help, Sarah. I was fast asleep last night. I sleep on my right side. For some odd reason, I woke up in the middle of the night. When I opened my eyes, I was face to face with what looked to be a woman's face. about an inch or so away. As my eyes focused, the image went away. The face was all white and see-through, and I didn't see any eyes on it. As I woke up more and tried to get my heart back into my chest, I had to wonder if it really happened or if it was just a dream or something. My brother was getting to sleep one night when he was about 13 or 14. The lights were off, doors closed. He was settled with his eyes closed. All of a sudden, he gets that feeling that he's being watched by someone. The feeling becomes stronger and stronger, so he pulls the covers over his head, curls into a ball, trying not to freak out. He even starts saying the Our Father prayer when a few lines, and he hears a voice right next to his ear say, "That's not going to help you." As a kid, I always hated having my bed up against the wall. I would have rather just had it in the middle of the room for the following reason. One night, after parents had tucked me in, kissed goodnight, etc., lights go out, I started to doze off as I usually did almost immediately. I wasn't freaked out, I wasn't afraid of anything in my room, no weird shadows, I was content. Then I started hearing this vaguely scratch-like noise coming from the wall my bed was up against, on my right, lying on my back. There was about a 2-inch gap between the bed and the wall. At first, I just figured it was just the creakiness of my bed. It was a very old kid's bed that my parents bought used from. I have no idea where. I ignored it for a minute or two, but it persisted even when I remained totally motionless. Eventually, my curiosity got the best of me, and I carefully peered into the darkness between the wall and the bed. I was already lying down, so I just rolled over. My face was in that gap, basically. I don't know what it was, the memory is fuzzy. I remember yellow and red flashes in a dark solid mass, and it flew at me from the floor. The more I think about it, I'm sure it was some kind of face, but definitely not very human looking. I, of course, shrieked like a little girl, leaped out of the bed onto the other side of the room, never taking my eyes from that gap, all the while screaming bloody murder for Mom and Dad. My dad, being the kick-ass dad that he is, moved the bed that same night for me. I got a new bed shortly after. Looking back on the incident, I guess it could have been a nightmare that I had right after falling asleep. But holy shit, it felt real, and to this day, I can't have my bed in a corner. Hello, I've had some questions that's been bugging me for years. As a child, I've always had a strong spiritual connection. My father saw it, and my mother refused to acknowledge it. My dad believes it has to do with the fact that my birth was predicted. He was a strong believer in the supernatural, and one night convinced my mother to use a Ouija board with him. When they got into the questions, the spirit took over the session and started telling them things. I guess they said that they would have a female born on February 27th, 1993, and it would be their only daughter. My mom wasn't even pregnant with my brother yet. I have a younger and an older. And she was told she could never have children. She was freaked out and they stopped playing. I wasn't even supposed to be born until the middle of March, but then I came early. At the exact time and day the spirit claimed. I've had strange things happen around me my whole life, but I know that's just because I'm more sensitive than most people. But I've never heard of somebody's birth being predicted by a Ouija board. Does anybody have insight into this, or has this happened to other people? Any help would be greatly appreciated. Ouija board story. Me, my ex, and her friends were playing with the Ouija board in a cemetery on Halloween. We were all sitting in a circle with our little candles. My ex's friend was a Wiccan, so she wanted to do everything legit. So they're playing the board and I'm building a wall of pebbles around my candle. It's said that if your candle blows out, get out of there. Anyways, all of a sudden my candle blew out and I just froze. Everyone else's candles were fine, so my ex's friend said, "We need to go now." So we all got up and I tell them all to get in front of me. As we're walking out, fast-paced walking, I hear footsteps behind me. The cemetery ground was a whole bunch of river rock and gravel pebbles. I turned around and see nothing, but still hear footsteps. All of a sudden, I feel a stabbing pain in my left hamstring and I start to limp. Then I somehow feel pushed from behind, and not just a shove, but a hard push. I fall to the ground and yell at everyone else to get out of there. I literally became freezing cold and couldn't move. While laying there, a ringing in my ears started to get louder and louder. Then it stopped, and a voice said, "This is your warning. There won't be another." I was then able to get up and got the fuck out of there. As a child, I was always afraid of my basement for one good reason: ghosts. I had horrendous nightmares, but one day they all came true. I was going down to my freezer, it was in the basement, to get some bread for breakfast when all of a sudden one of the shelves collapsed and behind it stood a man. He was partially transparent, so translucent I guess. He had a beard, stood about 6 feet 5 inches tall, and was horrifyingly scary. I ran upstairs to tell my mother when I heard shouting from downstairs, which my mother didn't hear. Ever since, I've been terrified of basements. I'm not sure how to describe what happened to me. I was cleaning my boys' bathroom, and in the mirror you can see their doors, sort of. You can see my 13-year-old's bedroom door from the bathroom. Anyways, I was washing the mirror, and when I ran the rug over the lower left portion of the mirror, there was a young girl standing in my hall, and I could see her in the mirror. I was so shocked that it didn't register at first. Her hair was black and straight. She wasn't smiling. Her face was sallowed and gray. I wasn't able to clean my bathroom very well after that. I had to keep checking behind me. I actually ran out of my house and had to stop shaking. It was so vivid. I will never forget that face, and it didn't look angry, sad, scared, or any other emotion. I just wanted to share this story with everyone. I can't tell my children, and my husband thinks I'm goofy. Thanks for reading. So the other day I did a large amount of cleaning. We came across some bracelets and photos from my brother who just committed suicide. We were talking about him, cleaning and looking at photos. All of a sudden, within 2 minutes of talking, a pot flew up and off the pot rack. No joke, up off the hook and landed on my tea serving jar, smashed all of the floor, all the way to the wall 15 feet away. Can anyone see my brother in this picture? It's amazing how everything happened all at once. Just want to know if he's here. I feel like he is, however, my feelings come and go. I have a question about what happened to me this morning. My name is Hannah and I'm 18 years old. I'm a college student and I don't drink or do drugs, and I never have. This morning I was awakened by my phone buzzing as though I had received a text. I chose to ignore it and tried to go back to sleep. I then felt pressure on my stomach area as though someone was hugging me. My covers tightened as though someone was putting a weight on either side of my body. Remember, I am wide awake at this point. I then felt intense sadness come over me. I decided to get up at that point. I checked my phone and I had no texts. I know I heard the phone. It's what woke me up. My question is, why is this happening to me? I believe my mother is sensitive to these types of occurrences. She has seen apparitions and heard and sensed things as well. Why wouldn't they just talk to her and not me? We live in the same house. I was in the story, but I was asleep for most of it. So this is my parents' story. Kinda creepy because it involves a child's toy. I was asleep in my double bunk bed with green covers and Star Wars sheets. At the foot of my bed to the right was a closet, and to the left was the door to the hallway. Inside my closet there was about a 3-foot tall white small shelf with a toy airplane on the top. This plane was about a foot wide and made of plastic. It could roll around by itself and say little catchphrases. That night, my parents awoke to a noise in the hallway. They got up to check it out. They saw my plane rolling around in the hallway, playing noise. This may seem a little startling in the middle of the night, but it seems startling to me because of the low chances of it making it to the hallway. It fell 3 feet somehow, landed on its wheels undamaged, and rolled out of the closet. Next, it would have to have rolled across my room and turned out my door, then finally turn again and travel down the hall. This may not be a ghost story, but toys creep me out at night.